Before we get started, I do want to take a moment of silence. We are all in this space together, in this pandemic together, and while we are here, we're still challenged with many other pre-existing challenges within both our community, within our state, within our nation, that I want to take a moment of silence out of respect for George Floyd, who we seen lose his life this past week on Monday, Memorial Day. I want to take a moment of silence for young Zion, a 5-year-old kid who drowned in Discovery Park this past Memorial Day. I want to take a moment of silence for Breonna Taylor. I want to take a moment of silence for Ahmaud Arbery, who lost his life to racism. I want us to pay some respects to those that are in this space that we've seen this past week that have galvanized our nation, our communities, and in particular the world. Let's bow our heads and have a moment of silence. We're all here at this press release really to lift up three values. The value of investment into our youth, investment into our communities, the value of now not the disinvestment, but investment into our future. The city has an opportunity here to create a future for all of us by ensuring that our community is protected, has the resources. I think we are traumatized on many levels. We've been traumatized for months due to the impact of coronavirus. We've been traumatized from pre-existing conditions disproportionately impacting the black and brown community. In other words, we die multiple times. We have seen the deaths in our community die multiple times from the impact of the virus, the lack of consistent support for economic recovery, the lack of sustainable investment into the previous work of the precious and previous work of peacekeeping and crisis intervention. As a result, we have an uptick of violence that we're seeing happening now. So we're not only here to really plead with the city and plead with our community leaders to invest, we're also here to really lift up the narrative of a COVID ceasefire. A time of peace within our community, spread out from South Sacramento to Sacramento County. You'll see a collective of leaders. There's a coalition of over 50 organizations, grassroots community organizations, a network of our Black Child Legacy Campaign, which is 7 organizations spread out throughout Sacramento City and Sacramento County that are all doing this precious work, including the precious work of Advanced Peace and our Healing the Hood campaign. You know, we are here to say, let us live. I am afraid that if we don't invest in our future, if we don't invest in the precious work of peacekeeping, we'll continually see a cycle of trauma on multiple levels within our community. So today, leaders from various community-based organizations spread out throughout both Sacramento City, Sacramento County, we're all here to say, let us live by investing in our future, by investing in our young folks, by investing in the business community. When you have a city budget that does not include the critical work, such as the Black Child Legacy Network, our peacekeepers, and who have been a large part or large component of the reduction of youth homicides that we've seen over the last 2 years, 0 youth homicides, I think we're missing the mark. Knowing that they serve our most vulnerable population here in Sacramento and Sac County, is something wrong when we don't have an investment into them. As a pastor, I leave you with this statement: what you do for the least of these, you do for the greatest of these. We have to invest in all of our communities. So you will hear a number of speakers representing a number of black and brown communities. We are all in this space together, and we're saying, let us live. I want to take a moment to introduce Kendra Montgomery Block, who is the lead project coordinator for Black Child Legacy Campaign, the 7 neighborhood organizations spread out doing great work. I want to welcome Kendra Montgomery.
Thank you all for being with us this morning. We come to you with not a plan, not what we think will work, but what we know will work. Over the past 28 months, there have been 0 juvenile homicides in the city of Sacramento. We're asking for not a disinvestment, but a reinvestment, a double down on that investment in these neighborhoods that are filled with levels of apprehension, tension, and folks just not knowing what tomorrow's going to bring. It is really important that we have street outreach workers and folks that have the trusted, reliable community messaging that can get inside of some of the youth violence, the gun violence, and have the credible messaging to be able to stop it. And that requires an investment, and it requires the investment of frontline street workers. And so we are asking that you join us, that the City Council and the county begin to really think strategically about the wonderful investments that they have done previously and the opportunity to use COVID-19 investment to really think and link gun safety, community safety to street outreach work, because that's what's been working in Sacramento City and the county to date for the past 28 months. Let's continue to do that. Let's continue to invest. We need the city to lean in. Thank you very much. Next, we'll have Gabby Trejo, who is the executive director of, actually, scratch that. We're going to have Mac, who is a peacekeeper lead with Advanced Peace. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark McGee, also known as MAK. I grew up in South Sacramento my whole life. I represent Sacramento. I'm the lead NCA for Advanced Peace. Today, I just want to keep it short and sweet. We all are coming together. We all have something to say. But I just want to ask all the youngsters, the little homies, OGs, everybody in the communities that we work so hard every day to just lay it down. Like right now, it's bigger than us. It's bigger than the problems that we're going through in the neighborhood. The country's in a serious place right now. And with us going against each other, we're never going to get anything done. We need some unity. So right now, my homies, Advanced Peace, we're all just asking, stand down. Let's get some peace. Let's work together. Let's invest in each other. Let's show some respect. Let's show some love. And hopefully we can get something done to make a better day for tomorrow. Because at this rate, we're just killing each other, going to prison, and we're never going to win like this. So I'm just asking, can we please just have a ceasefire, lay it down, and have a nice day. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Gaby Trejo, and I'm the Executive Director for Sacramento Act. And we know that communities of color have been in crisis long before COVID-19. What COVID has actually brought about has exposed the injustice and inequalities that our families have been experiencing for generations. But we have the opportunity right now, our city council has the opportunity to continue to invest in the prevention and intervention so that our children, our young people, not only have something to do this summer, but actually have the opportunity to thrive in our communities. We want to make sure that City Council and the county invest CARE Act money for violence prevention and intervention. That is key, because what the CARE Act money is for is to care for people. And at this moment, we need us to center our work and our budgets around the people that are the most vulnerable and the most in pain. And that is our young people and the great work that a lot of community-based organizations have been leading in our neighborhoods throughout this time. So thank you and have a great day.
Hello, I'm Dr. Arnanuju with the Black Child Legacy Campaign and Roberts Family Development Center. Just wanted to say that it's important that we keep in mind how the policies of COVID so far has disproportionately affected our communities, whether it be food insecurity, housing insecurity, educational insecurity, right, or the ramifications of violence in our community. It's important that now that we have disinvested, that we now reinvest back into our communities. And so we want to make sure that not only the city but our community knows that we're standing here fighting on their behalf, but we have to get behind and ensure that the challenges of the COVID pandemic aren't sustained throughout the summer, fall, and winter. It's even more important now that we recognize that some of our families are going to be facing a lot of different types of violence. And so when we say a cessation of violence, we're not just talking about gun violence, but we're talking about all types of violence, social violence, right, which is one of the most underscored violences that we experience. And so we want to just make sure that we stand here and that we support our communities and that we make sure that we get behind the policies and the letter that we're sending out. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Deborah Cummings. I am co-founder of Community Mothers of 958-3815. I would just like to state to you guys here, who stands behind me are the essential workers here in our community. We have invested thousands and thousands of hours to make sure that our community is safe, and also we are preventing a lot of bad things that you see on the news here in our communities. We are preventing them. We are making sure it's sustainable resources here in our community. City and county, you have to incorporate community. We need that foundations to survive sustainably in our community. I do not do this alone. I have real community workers that are standing with me day and night to make sure we roll out services in our community. That is needed. I witness so much every day, but the last straw is for baby Zion and for all the bad things that just happened over the weekend. We need accountability, as well as we are moving forward with doing the prevention, intervention, and it's going to be sustainable in our community. We need what we need. And as co-founder of Community Mothers, I am with my team all the way. Teamwork really does make the dream work. And I say to you guys, let's do what we need to do to take care of all of 916. This is, everybody needs to get on board with what we're talking about, prevention and intervention. Thank you.
Barry Axius, founder of Voice of the Youth. During this pandemic, the black and brown communities of our nation in America have continued to be marginalized, continue to suffer traumatic pain in many ways, and continue to be underserved. In this moment when a hashtag "we're all together" doesn't seem to fit the people of color, myself as a black man, I'm not tired. I've had enough. I've had enough of continuously watching traumatic videos of black men and black women and black children dying by the hands of those who say they're supposed to protect and serve. I've had enough of victims having to fight for their justice, being in a casket where rioters are considered to be looters when they riot for a just cause. They're rebelling against an oppressive system. I've had enough of continuously watching politics in our communities that continue to make promises that they will do better on underserved communities, but continue to have backdoor conversations and give for those communities that are already flourishing the monies. $89 million will be coming to the city. How much of that money will be coming to communities that look like mine? How much of that money has been served throughout this pandemic to communities and small businesses that look like me? Not many. We've had enough of the idea that inequality does not exist when we know it truly does exist, but it only exists in a mind. It has to exist in an action. We've had enough of crying babies. We've had enough of pain. We've had enough of us begging, pleading for individuals who service us, who we elect to do absolutely nothing for our communities, to continue to fail our communities, so we could continue to see more death locally and nationwide. We have been here before. Since 2014, we have made a plea in this city and throughout the nation to say we've had enough. black and brown people standing together saying, when will it be our turn? When will you realize that we suffer the pain, that we are human? We are here. We live in America just like you. We pay taxes just like you. Our kids have a bright future just like you. When will we say that our lives matter and really mean that? Or do we, in another year, come right back in the same place, having another press conference, talking about more death, talking about the mental health of our young people, when you have 600 students who have still yet to be accounted for by Sac City Unified? Talk to me about the equality. Where is it at? When we are deciding to say we're going to give people masks now, but we had to fight for that. And now a newer issue comes. We need laptops for our young people to stay in the know in this social distance learning scene. If there is not a true investment, this city is going to go down by the people that actually lifted it up. Because if the people who lifted it up are the people on the ground that are not getting service, what are they else to do? How can we prove that their lives matter? We've had enough. We're done with the talking. The demands stand. We need the monies from not only the city, but the over $2 million that will be coming from the county. We need a collective Esther, a real, true, sustainable investment. Not an investment of a year, not an investment of a few months, but a sustainable investment that makes our community look like what's going on downtown, looks like what's happening in Broadway. A true investment. Not investment that will just cure the symptom for a moment, but an investment that will cure the cancer that our communities continue to deal with on an everyday basis. As a black man living in America, you should not fear me, I should fear you. But by God be my witness, I fear nothing. But I do fear that if we continue on this route, we will not have this discussion on this kind of level. It will be a more unfortunate discussion because we'll have more lives being lost. And we can prevent that. Now the question is, what are we going to do to prevent that? We have had enough. Thank you.
The question Barry asked is with ending, what are we going to do next? We're asking the city to invest in our youth. We're asking the city to invest in precious peacekeeping work, invest in community-based programs, invest in the after-school programs, invest in the work that's happening to create peace within our community. We don't want to continually die multiple deaths. Let us live. This concludes our press conference. Thank you for your time. We'll be open for some questions.
Could you respond to the arrest and charges that the officer in Minneapolis who's seen with his knee on George Floyd, can you respond to the fact that he has just within the last hour been taken in by Minneapolis police, and we've learned that he's facing charges of third-degree murder and manslaughter?
We want to commend Minneapolis for acting quick to ensure the confidence of this moment to the people in Minneapolis and to the world, to the nation, by holding those accountable when they do commit an act like what they did with George Floyd that takes someone's lives. Right? This has been happening, as Barry said, since well before even 2014. But 2014 with Ferguson and Michael Brown, we've seen multiple things happen, and the Minneapolis police have took a step forward by holding this officer accountable and these officers accountable.
And it's one thing to face charges. What do you hope this officer faces down the line?
Well, first, we can never bring George Floyd's life back. So to his family, to their community that's mourning right now, our prayers are with them. Sacramento's standing with them. California's standing with them. And I think that's what they need to know. We are all standing together. We're hoping for a better tomorrow. It's a shame that even in a pandemic, black and brown communities are continually having to be traumatized by this level of police brutality.
I have a question too. Can you just speak to, a lot of these kids are at home. They're, I was talking to Mark earlier about how they're getting their news through social media. They're seeing videos of riots. They're seeing this video that's
It adds to the level of trauma that they already are suffering through, that all of us should be calling out wrong, wrong. But this adds to them because they've experienced this from generation to generation, and even in a pandemic, they can't live. They die on multiple fronts, from the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 to the lack of investment into their future, the lack of investment into the business community here locally, and then the lack of accountability in incidents like what we're seeing in Minnesota.
And then also to the point, when you are taking away the investments that we've made, for 2 years, let's be correct, in the city of Sacramento, there has been no youth homicides. And this is a collective effort of every individual and some who are not here. So when we're not able to put our hands and be able to hug and talk on a daily basis, have community organized events, and actually have some of these young people working, when they have an idle mind, is a devil's playground. So now what they're seeing is exactly what they want to imitate. They want to mimic what's going on in Minnesota over here in Sacramento. And I think the city of Sacramento should understand, when we dealt in 2018 with the trauma of Stephon Clark, the same things that we said during 2014 in Mike Brown, and it fell on deaf ears, we could be exactly like Ferguson, well, we can be exactly like Minnesota. It can happen because we have not been allowed to do the proper work to continue to keep these young people engaged, so they know, I know someone has my back. I do have a future. I don't need to be irresponsible and do that. But when you are constantly being kicked, tormented, when the homes you live in are not places that you can stay in, when they're saying that folks can shelter in place, but you're being over-policed in the place they say you need to shelter in, and there's no services but liquor stores. A liquor store is essential in our communities. Churches are closed. Community centers are closed. Food deserts, food insecurities, family insecurities, abuse in the homes, drug use in the home. What do you expect? That's why we say we have enough. Because if we take the investments, the little investments, and we're not saying this is a lot of an investment that we already have, the little investment, it all falls apart. That's why we are demanding and saying we need more in investment. If we are the face of COVID-19, as so many would like to say, then we should be the first in line, the people of color, to get the funding to support the communities that are at higher risk. It just seems like a smart deal to me. But we cannot blame those young people for having idle minds. This is what the society we created for them. We created this society for them that they live in. We created this. They're not graduating. They're not going to their last dance. Some have had to come back from college to the same community they tried to run from and escape from, and then come to the same leadership that they had a job, and now we say, we don't have any support for you. We don't have a job for you. We don't know what's going to look like in the summertime. All our children are not going to do virtual reality. It's not a reality. Our children need that love, that enduring heart, and they need to see the faces of the people they trust. And we are the people that they trust.
You called earlier, and I've heard calls for peace, and we can't win like this. We're also seeing that there is a solidarity with Minneapolis protests scheduled for tonight in Sacramento. Do you have any words to say to those who might be involved with that?
I don't feel like any protest is violent until agitators create the violence. You can't continue to propel folks that are fighting against the rage and then set it up to say that those who are being victimized are going to create hysteria in the streets. We stand in solidarity because what is happening in Minnesota should have never happened. The bottom line is George Floyd should be living. That's the truth. The bottom line is, shouldn't have took 3 to 4 days of burning businesses, burning neighborhoods, and people being so outraged for them to finally say, let's arrest this guy. He should have been fired, and then all of them should have been arrested immediately, not waiting to see what was going to happen. And also, let's be very clear, there are very much planted instigators in a lot of these protests. So we come in peace. We're the ones being attacked.
So I'm
regular places where everybody else goes. And I'm just wondering what is being done for the training, the conditioning of these police officers, because clearly there's a difference to me of how non-African American men are treated. There's a blatant difference and approached by police officers in our Justice Department versus black unarmed men.
So I'm not in a position to speak for the police department, but what I am in a position to do is to speak for the folks that stand behind me here today. There have been, again, 0 juvenile homicides in the city of Sacramento, and if a homicide happens in the next minute, it will be all incumbent upon us to be able to figure out a strategy and a way to stop that level of retaliatory violence in our neighborhoods. We come here because, 1, there needs to be a ceasefire, and 2, we need to continue the work that we are already doing with an additional level of investment. We've asked the city for $2 million, a drop in the bucket compared to the $89 million and the $200 million that the county would be getting to save the lives of young people. And again, we're not asking you for dollars that we think will work. We're asking you for those dollars that have been working already and to continue the work. So thank you.
Go ahead. This will be the last question. What we'll do is conclude the press event, and then you can ask one-on-one questions of individuals that are here. Go ahead.
Has the county or the city responded to any of these requests? Is there a process in place? I know that the governor put a executive order that kind of makes our public meetings a little bit different now, a little bit more challenging. But are you guys invited in on that conversation to be able to do that planning process?
Right.
Part of that?
Yeah, so I can say that we have not been uninvited, but we have not necessarily, this conversation that we're having today there has not been an invitation. But this is our invitation, right? This is our opportunity to come together. There was a city council meeting that occurred on Tuesday. There were a lot of things that were voted on when it comes to the CARES Act funding. Not one of those kind of votes were specifically about gun safety, youth violence and safety, violence interruption, prevention, and intervention. And so now we invite that conversation. We work handily with the county on many projects, including the Black Child Legacy Campaign. And we have been building an infrastructure that really does save lives, and we want to continue to do that. The city and the county have always been our partners, but in particular when it comes to this COVID line of work, we need additional partnerships. If we're going to create an opportunity for these neighborhoods to rise and not be held back by this pandemic, then these are the folks that can help make that happen for the city and county of Sacramento.
So again, this concludes the press conference. If there's any individual kind of questions you may have for a few of the speakers, feel free to do that. Thank you for your time, and God bless.
Third-degree murder is not good enough for him, first of all. That's what I want to say. Yeah. And manslaughter, that's the first.
Thank you all for being here. It means a lot.
Thank you, thank you.